All right, welcome everyone, and I do have to thank you for attending this seminar. And I sent out the notice of this seminar like 3 days uh, before today, and it's a rather a harsh announcement here. But I do want to use this opportunity to actually put a lot of things together. I will try to squeeze three topics into this seminar. We'll see if I can do that. Okay, because the both three topics are actually coming from roughly each one has about 1 hour content. That's actually coming from three individual seminars. So at this moment, I don't know whether I can cover all of them, but I will try my best. Okay? All right. So the first part, well, just a very quick introduction of myself for someone who did not know me. Well, my name's Jingwei Meng, and I'm actually graduated from Peking University, and then went to Duke and get my PhD degree. And later on, when I moved to Indiana University, I got an MBA degree in finance and supply chain management from Kelley School of Business. And I have been working in many roles. And currently, I'm a faculty member with Indiana University. Um, but for this particular seminar, I'm trying to use my other background to talk about three things. Okay, I have been working on many educational platforms in music education and business education. So in particular, um, for this seminar, I would use my business background to talk about what do we really know about business education, okay? Especially for the middle school and high school students, all right? And I have been doing this business education for teenagers for the past let's see, almost 7 years actually. And I do enjoy this whole process. And I do feel from both my personal experience and also from the experience of my students that business education is actually quite essential for the future success as both in your personal life and in your career. Okay, so in today's seminar, I'm going to talk about three things. So number one, many people actually not sure what kind of a business education, what kind of outcome coming from business education, right? So, and just to demonstrate that this is actually relevant to what we are, most of us actually looking for the by the end of the high school, that will be college applications, right? So I like to show you what kind of outcome based on the business competitions, and that will sure help you to understand what you can show to other people. Okay, but I have to do a little bit disclaimer here that that I always visualize business education is not for competition alone, but competition itself is kind of a demonstration. Okay, so don't just let the competition concept carry you away. Okay, and the second part, I'm going to talk about the educational platform I have set up since 2018. And it has been quite successful. It has been quite successful in the over the pandemic actually. And that's actually quite interesting because during the pandemic, we have to stay at home and take the online educational opportunities. And for that perspective, I feel that especially for online education, that actually provide a lot of opportunities for the students and also provide a great opportunity for me as well. So my students is actually covering several countries from Asians, from United States, and from European countries. And so I feel this is a great opportunity to put this business education idea into the hands of many middle school and high school students. Okay, and the third part is actually I do want to talk a little bit about college applications, and this is a new topic for me. The reason is actually quite simple. My daughter is actually applying college this year, and I have to kind of go along with this whole college application process. And I do have a lot of experience now compared with a year ago. And I have to admit that at the beginning of this year, I feel that I know college application already. Well, I actually serve as the admission committee for my school previously. And so I feel that this is something I know. But actually, during this whole process over the past 6 months, I actually feel that there's a lot of new understandings and there's a lot of things that I feel that I just feel it's a good opportunity so that I can share my own experience and also to help all the students to reach the next level. Okay, so we'll see if I can cover all of those. And like I said, each topic is probably over an hour, but I'm going to squeeze those 3 hours content into 1 hour seminar. Okay, and feel free to type your questions in the chat box. And if I feel that's relevant, then I'll talk alongside. If there's too many questions, maybe I just have to wait until the end of the seminar. Okay. All right. So let's get started. All right. The first part, I'm just going to give you a kind of a very quick introduction of if you want to take any business competitions for middle school and high school, okay? Not just high school. And what kind of opportunities out there, okay? And I'm going to run down the list. And I know this list is actually getting long and long and long. And I still remember when I first doing this business competition introduction to other people, I only have like 6 or 7, but right now it's like over 10. That's just because a lot of my students decided to take the opportunity to compete in various competitions. Then I have to do my research and help my students to compete in there. So I'll just run down the list. And if you have any questions or if you are not familiar with any of those, feel free to throw in the questions in the chat box, and I will try my best to answer your questions. And I have to admit, this is a rather complicated system. Okay? All right, there we go. So the first one I will always talk is actually the DECA. DECA is actually, let me put this way. DECA is the probably the most known business competitions for the students. And the reason The reason is actually quite simple. DECA itself is a club-based, and a lot of high schools integrated the DECA competition itself with the school classes. And most of the time, if you want to join a DECA competition, you have to join the club. But to join the club, one of the requirement is actually you have to attend one of the business classes at school. Okay, so I don't want to give you too much background. And if you are interested, you can definitely find those on the internet. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to cover all those competitions and trying to give you a kind of overview and try to find, is there anything that do click with your interest? Okay, all right. So like I said, DECA is probably the most well-known, and most of the time you actually join the DECA competition through the school chapters. And very similar to the other one, I'm going to talk FBLA and BPA, but for DECA, it actually covers a wide range, very wide range of business competitions. Here, I'm just giving you a very quick cluster and computation type overview. For each of the clusters, it actually potentially consists 10 types of computations. It actually depends on which one you want to attend, okay? So if I remember correctly, for DECA computations, you have over 70 subjects you can actually compete, okay? And for that reason, you need to actually kind of immerse yourself into various topics in here. And for that, there's no one can help you but yourself, but the students, I would say. Okay. And all those, if you look at the individual DECA computations, most of them is actually focused on business. This is actually quite different from the next business competition I'm going to talk. Very different, okay? So to give you a little bit sense of what DECA competition may look like, I'm going to give you two examples, okay? The first example is actually coming from the principles of business administration events. This is probably the most fundamental ones. Many, well, I can say even if you're not familiar with the business, and you can even attend this to test your understanding of business, okay? And for this particular one, it's actually you can attend just as one individual person. So this is called individual competitions. And basically, you also have to take a business administration core exam. So this is actually something you will do as you get into the qualification to attend the bigger events, okay? And the DECA, just like other club-based competitions, you actually compete at your regional level first and move on to the state level. And then from the state level, the selected few will join the national level competition. Okay, so you have to start from your regional. Basically, you join a local DECA chapter, then you compete. Okay, for this particular one, you can just sign up saying, I'm going to compete as a DECA member of these business competitions. And once you pass the business administration core exam, normally you will bring to, let's say, bring to the state level. And state level normally will do a role playing. And the role playing is actually quite simple. You came in there, you can have a few, maybe a notepad and a pen, okay? And they will distribute kind of background knowledge to you with questions you need to answer. And you have 10 minutes to prepare. And after 10 minutes, you are going to walk into a room with normally 2 to 3 judges, and you do your presentation to explain what they ask you to do. Okay, so most of those DECA or FBLA or BPA competitions, it's actually consist with a core written exam and a role playing. Okay, so those two things are actually trying to test you. Number one, your basic knowledge. Number two, your real business communication skills, presentation skills, writing skills, etc. Okay, so this is a one example of the single person individual competition of DECA. Okay, another one is actually, this is actually a little bit complicated. This one is also coming from DECA. It's something called Startup Business Plan. And the Start Business Plan is actually requires you to do something like a written entry. You are going to submit. Okay, so this is the step. Actually, many schools actually has those classes you can take, and the project of that particular class will be writing your business plan. Okay, but if you are looking at the details, I just copy paste the requirement of this particular business plan. This is actually very complicated. Okay, so if you run down the list, it's coming from the summary, the problem, the customer, etc., etc., until sometimes you even have to provide a financial analysis if your business plan can really work financially. Okay, so compare with the previous individual like entry level, a business plan is actually more or less is actually profound. If I want to relate any business skills you have to use in this rather complicated business plan type of competition, it really requires a lot of things. I list later. I'm not going to run for the list. Okay, so this is actually means DECA is not for someone who say, I know everything. DECA is actually starting from very beginning level until towards the end. So DECA, like I said, is for the high school students only, right? So if you are, as a student, really interested into the business, I would actually strongly recommend you started to attend at 9th grade or 10th grade, and then slowly progress into this kind of a complicated competitions. And I will talk a little bit about why you want to do a long term instead of just a nail and I win DECA. So it's not working that way. Okay. All right. The second one is probably equally well known in some regions. It's something called FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America. Okay. There's a lot of common things between DECA and FBLA. They're both club-based, meaning you have to join the competition through a club, your local chapters. And most of the time, it's actually also associated with your school. Depending on your school, some bigger schools actually have both FBLA and DECA clubs, and some only has one. Okay, and some schools does not even have one. Okay, and I will talk about that. If you don't have one, what are you going to do? And that's actually can serve as a great opportunity for you to create your local chapter by yourself. Okay, so the major difference in my eyes, the FBLA and DECA, is actually DECA is more or less business oriented, but FBLA somehow is actually related to technology, STEM. So the reason is, here is actually some of the, I just give you some examples of the topics. Okay. And for example, you see accounting, 3D animation. Okay. You talk about coding and programming, client service. And if you go over here, there's electronic career portfolio. And here it's actually talking about something not completely, for information technology. So I would say FBLA is actually trying to create an environment actually for across subjects between the STEM and the business. So if you are more or less entrepreneurship, technology driven, I actually feel FBLA is actually a very good choice for you. And I saw Felina actually send me to the message. Yes, some school, they only have one and they are kind of exclusive for one of the clubs. Okay, very rare you have two. Okay, but if your school actually allow, you can have two, you can have both DECA and FBLA. I would actually encourage you, try your best to do it. Okay, and I have actually several students did that. When they first I introduced the FBLA and they said, oh, we don't have that. And then they actually held that club with, I think for the first year, they already have like 30 plus members just for the first year. So that actually shows very strong your business skills. Okay. All right. So let me give you a few examples as well, just to give you a taste of what kind of a competition you can expect from FBLA. This is one called FBLA Introduction to Business Procedures. And this is specifically mentioned for the 9th and 10th grade. So meaning this is actually kind of an entry introduction level. And then they will do a test as well. And then you are just going to do the test. Okay, so this is actually very simple, like a test only, best scores, and you can win. Okay, and the other one is a little bit difficult, and this is actually a kind of setup, just like the one I said, like role playing as a DECA competition. And this is an entrepreneurship, and you have 20 minutes to prepare, and you have 7 minutes to perform, and then they will warn you, time up 7, and then they will ask you the question, spending roughly about 3 minutes. Okay, I still remember actually I was a national judge with FBLA over in Chicago several years ago, and there are actually really big events. And the case itself is actually more or less relevant to the current scenario. And they want the students to have a real world case study and show their understanding of whatever business ideas they have. Okay, so with that in mind, this is their content is more or less techy. Okay, it's not like you want to sell a car, but rather they want to sell like auto driving car, something like. So they normally put a little bit techy touch for their business scenarios. That's my experience with FBLA. Okay, and this is actually another one coming from FBLA, very similar to the business plan writing. Okay, and if you look at all the details, well, they actually the content involved is actually quite similar. And whenever there's a business plan involved, normally that's actually the higher level, probably 10th grade, 11th grade. And that's just because they just cover a lot of contents there. Okay, so what I'm trying to mention here is do your research. And there's just so many topics. For FBLA, over 30 topics you can compete with. For DECA, over 70. And each one has their requirements. And each one actually takes your time to do it. And you have to make your judgment, like which one to take. And I would actually recommend, if you are just trying to have a taste of business, feel free to take those individual computations because that's more or less controllable. Okay, for when you get into a higher level and when you have more experience, then I would strongly recommend you get into one of the business writing ones. And that is actually help you to understand the overall business skills. Okay, all right. So here is another example, and I particularly put the sales presentation because this is really can be done with an individual or team. But my suggestion is if you have IO individual or team, I would always recommend you do a team. Okay, find at least another person to help you. Okay, and you will gain tremendous benefits when you do this role-playing presentation right on the side. Okay, 2 person is definitely better than 1 during that scenario. Okay, the third one I'm going to talk is something called Business Professionals of America. This is actually very similar like DECA and FBLA. But the thing is, BPA is newly established, not really new, 1966, right? But it's just less popular than DECA and FBLA. And but it's still a great competition there. Okay. If I want to put a difference, try to say which one is best for you, BPA or DECA or FBLA, I would say the one you can have easy access. If you don't have all 3, then you can set up a local chapter by yourself. And this is actually, I highly recommend my students to do that. Okay. And oh, I forgot to mention one other thing. FBLA has something called a middle school ML level. And that is actually something I recommend if you want to have someone like 7th or 8th grade to just have a taste of what business competition is like, then I would recommend to try to attend FBLA middle school level competition. And this is actually the benefits I feel that FBLA club over the DECA. DECA is strictly high school students, but FBLA is actually, they actually move down a little bit. You can have a middle school level to compete. But, you know, this is also a little bit challenge for lower grades as well, okay? And for the BPA, it's actually very similar, and they also have middle school level as well, okay? So that's actually something like DECA is more or less high school centric, but FBLA and BPA are more or less to cover the whole range. Okay, and it's always a great introduction to business concepts when you start the middle level. Okay, all right. The next one I'm going to talk is actually one of my favorite. And I got the question asked me like, which of those competition is the most important? I'm not going to, I cannot answer which one is important, but I can tell you which one is the most well-known, or in another word, which one is the most challenging. And that one is Wharton Global High School Investment Competition. I put in here, Wharton Global High School Investment Competition. Okay. And, but this is actually hosted by the really well-known, right? Really well-known Wharton Business School.
啊，这个好像就是抓随堂。他这边有没有厕所？你厕所给人扔一下，这样知道吗？
Let me try to turn it off. All right.
哦，这是往里面。
All right. So the Wharton is actually the business school, the most well-known business school coming from University of Pennsylvania, right? The UPenn Wharton. And very competitive and very well known for its investment banking alumni. And probably if you are interested in, especially in finance, Wharton Business School is the one you should attend. Okay, very competitive, by the way. And so the WGYP, the Wharton Global Youth Program, actually host this Wharton Global High School Investment Competition. This is actually very well known over, I think, over 20 years or so. And this competition is actually for high school students only, and it must come in from the same high school. You cannot like getting students from a lot of places and have one team. It has to come in from the same school. And it's very tough. Okay, so let me give you some numbers. For the past season, not the current season. Current season, the competition is still going. My students, several teams, they already submitted their final report in the middle of December, and they're going to waiting for the results if they can get into the semifinal next month, later next month. But this is actually 1,655 teams submitted the final report. But originally, the past season, there are over 5,500 teams, 5,500 teams attending this competition. Very, very competitive. Okay, if you can even just get into the semifinal, that's already, you are the top 1% student, top 1% team in there. Okay, over 5,000 teams are participating. Okay, and the reason why I want to say this is the most important or most well-known, it's not just the Wharton name tag. It's also because it actually covers not just investment, but rather it actually covers a lot of things.
Talking about some.
Okay, so this is actually something I want to emphasize. A lot of times when you are looking at a business competition, especially for those ones, very challenging ones, well, how many teams will get into the semifinal? Only 50 teams will get into the semifinal, starting from 5,000 teams. So the other 99% of teams will not even get into the semifinal. Okay, but I want to emphasize the benefits if you can carry on, even just finish the reports, the investment portfolio analysis, client analysis, everything. If you can just finish it, that's already an achievement. And a lot of my students they actually benefit tremendously when they just trying to attend, trying to have a team even. During this process, they learn a lot. Okay, so here is actually my ideology about the competition is you learn through the process. The results is important, but the results is just a byproduct of the process. So if any of the students want to attend, I will always encourage them to do that. Okay, but that's not the purpose. That's not the goal. That's just something coming naturally from your learning. All right. Okay. So to give you a taste of what kind of why this is a long and challenging competition, I'll give you some key dates. I'm just going to run down this. So it's almost started from very early in September, but most of the students will actually form their team sometime around let's say August. Okay, so from August, if you can successfully get into the final 10, you actually have a global finale back in April. So altogether, it's actually over 8-9 months long competition. Okay, so this is how much effort it actually gets you involved. Okay, I just a sideliner. I do have I actually help the student to do this competition, but this is actually as a charity work, and well, I don't want to waste too much time on that, but this is actually part of kind of my dedication to the business education. Okay, all right. So what's involved? I keep mentioning that this is the most challenging, right? So I'm just going to give you what will be covered in their official description. Okay. So the first part actually requires you understand the general business concepts, the marketing, presentation skills, and eventually you're going to do in-person presentation in front of 5 judges, and that will be public speaking skills all involved. Okay, and you need to learn how to do the company analysis, your industry analysis, and how to implement the strategies. And you also need to know the basic financial and accounting basics. And you need to learn what is the corporate finance and how to construct your portfolio, how to invest, and what is the ETF, what is the stock investment, how to diversify your risk and make the balance, do the hedge, how to invest with ESG concerns. Okay, so all those. So that's why I want to emphasize this is actually something, you should not take it lightly. Okay, but I always recommend this competition because you can learn so much out of it. Okay, all right. But let me give you another highlights of the global Wharton Global High School competition. It's not just that. The one I mentioned, Wharton Global High School Investment Competition, it's a long process from August, September to April. But once you submit your final reports in mid-December, and you do have the chance to attend another competition, something called Wharton Data Science Competition. This is actually a new competition, just started last year. I would say this year, this January, this past 2024 January. And it will last from January to April. And the same is you are going to use your mathematical skills to analyze the game results. Okay, so if I remember correctly, the first one is actually you were giving, is that 24 or I forgot how many teams, by the way. Oh gosh. So you will giving the historical data of teams playing results, and you're going to construct your own model to predict and see which game will be win in the next season. Okay, and that's actually something quite interesting. It requires a rather sophisticated mathematical modeling. Okay, so this is actually, I would say, quite interesting for those, if you feel that you are STEM oriented, this could be a good competition to attend. Another new one is actually something called a comment and win competition. This happens during the summer from June to August. And basically you have 4 chances to comment on something they posted, and then based on the comment, they have the grading system, and you can win. Like, well, there are 4 winners basically. Okay, during the summer. And I would say if you are just interested in the business competitions, and those 3 are actually covers a quite a big range of your interest. Okay, so this is number 4. Number 5 is actually something called the Diamond Challenge competition, and for some reason, over the past, let's say over the past 4 years, Diamond Challenge has been mentioned many, many times. And I think the major reason is actually you don't have to have all the students coming from the same school. And that actually means students can be formed from everywhere in this, from all the countries. Okay. And submission for the coming 2024-2025 season is actually January 16th. And so you still have a little bit over 2 weeks if you're interested to attend. And I do know that there are other agencies actually help students to compete that. But I normally will try to avoid doing that. Okay. And for Diamond Challenge, you are actually required to submit very short, actually a quite short business plan, and also you need to submit a 1 to 2 minutes introductory video. And later on, you are going to be required to create your 15 slides presentation deck, and you send up as virtual presentations or in persons in at last. And Diamond Challenge is actually was actually quite an interesting one, because that's the one actually you can actually explore a lot of your business ideas and combine them with something you learned from a particular subject. Or maybe just as example, if you are good at maybe if you are interested in let's say engineering stuff, and you can create a potential novel engineering ideas and test those ideas into a business content. So, and Diamond Challenge actually asks you to actually to do that. But do remember that DECA, FBLA, BPA, they all have the content to ask you to write a business plan, right? And Diamond Challenge is actually like a singled out, trying to let you to do that. Okay, just the business plan competition. Okay, another one Another one is something called the Model Entrepreneur Competition, MEC. And MEC normally is actually formed by the student coming from the same high school, because at this moment, not many people really pushing for that. And the registration is not submission, just registration is actually by January 15th, about 2 weeks ago, away. And for the first round, you are going to need to submit your first draft by April. So you have a plenty of time to create MEC content. And by May the 30th, that's actually after this semester, spring semester ends, then you need to submit your final draft. And also, you need to submit a commercial video. And then they will select, I think for this 2024, I think they select about 50, 70 teams to get into the final round. And then you will be selected, and you can choose to participate. You can choose, okay? This is an option, okay? But if you are selected as the finalist, I do recommend you attend this Legacy Tokyo 2025. And that will be from July 28th to July 31st, 2025. And they have, this is like 3-day events, 3-4 days events, and it's a quite interesting content there. And you are able to present in person, on site, and to the judges. And I always feel that this is a much better way to learn and also to compete as a in-person event. Okay, so this is also, I think, give you enough time to do that. Okay. The next one is actually something called stock pitch competition. It's actually coming from Young Investor Society. And this is actually the one my student actually referred that to me. And I feel that this is a quite interesting one. But I have to say that this is a completely different from the business plan writing. This is actually talking about how do you do a valuation of a particular stock. I think you can pick any stock to do the evaluation. And you can form a team of 1 to 2 students can form a team. And it also can be coming from different schools. And you need to register and submit by April the 2nd. And if you are selected as a top 100 teams, and then you will be invited over to New York City and to compete the quarterfinal, the semifinal, and the final rounds. And I think they give, I forgot how much money they give out. Is that $10,000 for the winner? Something like that. But it's a quite an interesting one, and very different from the previous ones like MEC or Diamond Challenge or DECA. This is a very specific talking about valuation of particular stock of your choice. And I remember when I was an MBA student, I actually attended those stock pitch competition a few times. Cause I'm a finance major, right? So valuation is always quite interesting to me. So this is another one that I feel if you are really just interested into stock alone, and that could be a great opportunity for you. Okay. The next one is actually something I want to emphasize a little bit. National Economics Challenge. This is completely not a business, okay? Many people ask me the question like, what's the difference between economics and the business? Well, in my eyes, they're related, right? But economics is talking a lot about the microeconomics factors, the macroeconomic factors, and the business is actually utilize a lot of information coming from the study, research from the economics. But business itself is really something like you do things. Okay? You do things. And when you are trying to finish anything, and that's actually coming from a business perspective. And that's actually part of the reason why I always emphasize business is not about earning how much money. My goal is, it's not about the goal, but rather how you are going to do it. Okay, so why I want to mention National Economic Challenge is it's because this is also one of the major school-sponsored events. Many high schools actually have this NEC implemented with their microeconomics or macroeconomics classes. Okay, and I would actually strongly suggest if you are interested in economics and or business in general, well, talk with the teacher who's actually teaching the macro or microeconomics classes and see if your school has this. But normally, this is done through the school, and each school will send one team to compete in the state competition. And the winner of the state competition will attend the first round, like a state champion of the first round. That's just the first round. Will attend, I think it's a virtual semifinal, and then the final 4 teams will fly over to New York City and attend the final competition. Only 4 teams will be there. And they will pay for all those, okay? All the trips, everything. And so and I don't think the state competition or regional competition is on yet. You see, this is like April, right? So a lot of times, this is actually the team coming from a particular school will be formed, like by the end of a particular class. Okay, so I don't want to go for the details, too much detail for the NEC, but in my mind, this is also a great opportunity to at least understand a major part of business. Okay, and this is also shows you devotion of business education itself as well. Okay, all right. The next one will be something interesting. This is something called International Economics Olympiad, okay? And I have to say, the IEO is not new, okay? It's founded like 1 year before the pandemic, 2018, okay? And for this year, 2024 IEO, there are only 68 countries attended, and they are competing in the 3 tracks of competition: financial literacy, or economics, or business case study. Okay, and but do remember, this is not something you can attend. Just I want to register and attend. This is something you need to done through kind of national level. Okay, if you are a high school student, I strongly recommend, especially if you are interested in the economics, I will strongly recommend you email them. I think there's also a US representative, and you email them and ask for how you can participate. And the selection process can be very lengthy. And I think there's also training camps. And if you are organization or institution, you can host those competitions. You can also apply for that as well. But like I said, I don't want to put too much efforts on the economics part. So, but I do feel that this is a vital part of business. So that's why I also put in the NEC and IEO, just for your reference. Okay. And over here, I already give you, oh gosh, it's almost 1 hour. So many computations, right? And I saw there's a list of questions. I will try to answer those. But that's not just all of the computations. There are many, okay? And Junior Achievements, International Relations Council, Genius Olympiad, Sage National Champions, Blue Ocean, Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. And I have to say there are a lot business competitions, and they actually aim for different perspectives of business. And feel free to attend, okay? And don't be afraid saying, oh, this is not well known. Should I not join, not compete? Don't do that. Just try your best to compete. Okay, any of them will open a door for you for the business education. Okay, and before I move on to the part two, I don't think I will have time to cover part two or part three actually, but I'll try my best. Okay.
有什么意思啊？9年级啊。
Okay, so well, I'm trying to look at the list of the questions sent to me. Okay, some questions involve, do you need a mentor? Technically, some of them are required. For example, especially for Wharton investment computation, you need to have a certified, quote unquote, school advisor, and there's for the for this IEO, you are going to have at least one team advisor as well. Okay, but many of them, they don't have a strict regulation like you do have a mentor. But in my eyes, I would say, why you want to compete in those business competitions? Think about that question. The reason is actually quite simple, right? You want to learn things, right? And hopefully you can win. And you can all do your self-study, but I also feel that the importance, well, I have to admit, my opinion is a little bit biased because I'm teaching business, right? So I always feel that a good teacher can save a lot of time and effort for the students. And when the student in high school, their time is very valuable. Okay, and I cannot answer some of the questions like who will be the best mentor. That's really case by case. And if you're interested to explore, and we can always talk about that later on. Okay. Some of the people ask me to the contact information. Okay. I'll run through my part two very quickly, and I will have the contact information and the parents' channels, etc. all discussed over there. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the part two. The part two is actually talking about the educational platforms, and I know many of you actually don't really know what is a business education. So I would like to take this opportunity to run through some summaries. Okay, I'll start by saying my own skill sets. Okay, so I can roughly divide my skill set into two parts, and you can do that too as well. One part is called hard skills, and the other part is like soft skills. For the hard skill parts, math, physics, chemistry, biology, my programming skills, okay? And my biochemistry, molecular biology, cell biology, high throughput screening, high content analysis, CRISPR, NMR, LC-MS, crystallography, atomic force microscopy, bioinformatics, blah, 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 blah. And something related to business, financial analysis, business analytical tools, marketing tools. Okay, those are something that actually I know. Okay, really specific and really help me to survive and to get my career going. All right, but I have another set of skills, which is actually, for example, presentation, debate, negotiation, listening, writing, manage time, networking, teamwork, collaboration, creative thinking, conflict resolution, my own experience, empathy, my confidence, my ethics. And if I want to tell the difference between the hard skills and the soft skills, the hard skills is very specific, while the soft skills is actually transferable. Okay. And I have to say this. I'm not saying soft skills is more useful than hard skills. It's really depending on the subject, right? But the soft skills are something you can use across the board. And that is actually something we learn throughout the education. Okay, I'm going to show you a very typical academic timeline, like a kid grow up in the United States, go through the public education system. From kindergarten to grade 5, that's actually elementary, you learn the numbers, basic knowledges, maybe even secondary language, right? Your social study, natural sciences. And then when you get into like middle school level, you started to learn pre-algebra, chapter books, word study, basic science, and then algebra 1, writing, general history, intermediate science. And right after, before you get into the high school, you started geometry, essay writing, a little bit US history, and advanced sciences. Okay, now, if you move into the high school, you started to algebra 2, or sometimes even pre-calculus, world history, biology, computer science, grade 10, pre-calculus, research, literature, AP classes, chemistry, and calculus, but only after pretty late the student actually have a feeling about what business is. But throughout this education, you will understand that most of them is actually talking about very specific topics, right? But across the board, that actually the soft skills are being emphasized more, than a lot of things, but they did not really give you a timeline. Okay. So in my eyes, if you want to know the business, I actually want to suggest to follow this very similar guideline, but through a different way. When you are in the elementary school, you start with a business literacy. Okay, readings, movies, novels, books, documentaries, those sort of things. And when you get into grade 6, when you are mature enough, the student should learn negotiation, psychology factors, law and ethics. Grade 7, start to learn what really business means, the product, customer, market, risk, competitors, etc. And before you get into high school, you should already learn how to do your analysis, strategies, those sort of things. Okay, why I mentioned this is because high school is actually like a divider between yourself, like parents driven into self driven. And if you don't understand a lot of analysis part, and you are actually will fall behind. Okay. And in grade 9, you should start to emphasize more or less the business concepts, finance, accounting, investment, operations. And then you started major competitions like the one I just mentioned, water investment competition. And then go to grade 11, 12, research, interns, or even jobs. Okay, so I actually try to propose this kind of business education. And if, well, I don't know about you, but in the state I'm in, the Indiana state, by July, I think by July 2024, financial literacy education is a required part of high school graduation. You have to receive the financial literacy education during your high school. Okay, so this is actually something actually another 17 states put into their syllabus. Okay, and that's the trend. Okay, so of course, finance is only part of the business, but to understand finance, you have to understand a bunch of other things. Okay, you cannot understand finance until you realize what the business is, what's the business model, what's the strategy. Okay, then you can understand the finance part of the business. Okay, so for that, I actually trying to, that's why actually from the very beginning, I'm trying to have a vision what I can do if I want to provide a financial business education to the middle school and high school students. Okay, so the MBA for Youth program is actually was set up that way. And that is actually get back in the 2018, 2019, and we have the camp, and we started as a weekend schools, and getting into the pandemic, we have a lot of summer and winter online camps, and we put in more contents, include the marketing, and then add in the strategy part, and then I put in the psychology, investment, finance, and also included the competition. That's actually free classes. And right now it's actually being involved with the operations, supply chains. And so all those content, if I want to give you a whole system, that is this. You start with the marketing, and you through the marketing, you have the strategy. With the strategy, you learn how to run the business. Altogether comes to the understanding of the finance. And there's other topics, for example, negotiation, law, psychology, data analysis. That's actually kind of the general topics. And overall, it's actually the entrepreneurship. So I'm not saying business equals entrepreneurship, but rather entrepreneurship. If you want to be a good entrepreneur, you have to understand all the perspective of business. Okay, so keep that in mind. This is actually something I want to emphasize here. Okay, here is a rather complicated course structure, and you can see this is actually version 8. This is actually developed actually with only one course, B001, as the core concept. And then we move in with the marketing tracks. This is a new capstone classes. Actually, the students will be working with a real small company, and providing marketing, strategy, operation, or finance consulting for that small company. This is like the most advanced class for all the classes. And the whole class actually divided into 4 tracks: marketing, strategy, operation, and finance. And I would always suggest you go through the flow. And then there's special topics were taught during Mondays and Wednesdays, and include the business data analysis, negotiation, law ethics, and the business decision making. And well, and there's also entrepreneurship simulations, and also there's some other classes as well. And for the coming spring semester, the classes actually begins this coming weekend, right? Today is Sunday, so the coming Friday is actually the first class of the B001. And all the classes actually has been put into tracks. You can register any of the classes with the prerequisite satisfied. But I do feel that if you stay with one of the tracks, Friday evening, Saturday afternoon, and Saturday evening, and I normally rotate those classes every semester. So if you stay at one, just stay with one, then you will take all the classes, potentially. Okay, so because of the time, I'm not going to talk about too much details. And but all the classes, you can feel free, if you have questions, feel free to contact me. Okay. And here is actually, if you want to understand more about the classes, you can scan this barcode. That will bring you into a PDF file. And that PDF file has a rather detailed 2025 spring semester class information. And for that reason, you can find a lot of informations like why and what why I offer these classes. And there's a lot of explanations. It's like a 4-page document. Feel free to take a look at that, okay? And I do want to mention, this is something I'm going to try this this coming year, the coming summer. And the class is actually talking about financial analysis and marketing essentials, but the class itself will be an escape room style, meaning the students will be assigned a role. You're going to do a role playing in a murder mystery format, and the role playing will be combined with online classes, and the students will be asked to find out what's going on and how to solve a murder case, basically. And it will be a escape room style problem solving. And this is the first time actually I'm trying to do this online. This is actually original designed as a in-person game. And so within this context, it will cover the financial literacies, talk about business laws, talk about marketing essentials, and talk about multi-level marketing. And through the game, through the group discussions and student-driven activities. So it will be a lot of fun for this coming summer classes. And I actually feel this will be a great opportunity for any students who's interested in business. And I consider myself a really good teacher, so I designed this class, and it will be a lot of fun, I assure you. Okay, and that summer camp will be between July the 7th to the 11th, those whole week. And there will be 3 hours per day for 5 days, basically. And it will be from 7 to 10 p.m. Okay, That's just a proposed date. If there's anything, we probably we can change. It's not set yet. Okay. Okay. Another thing is communication. You can connect with me, and you can scan this WeChat ID, or you can email me mba4use@gmail.com. Okay. And also, you can communicate with me through Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is actually the way I feel that probably most versatile communication method. And I do create a students and parents channel. And you can scan this barcode. You can copy the links or whatever, do a screenshots if you want. And you can register and go into this channel, and we periodically send the informations. And I just feel this is a great way to connect the students and parents, and cause my students coming from different perspectives, and some of them are actually already almost graduating actually from college, and they have I feel that to create this kind of community will help everyone in everyone who's interested in this. Okay. All right. Well, let me just stop here. Okay. I don't think I will have enough time to cover the business educations, but I do want to run maybe just one or two slides to give you a sense. Okay. So anyone know how many graduates from college each year from different majors? And since I asked this question, you probably already know the answer, right? And the top 10 popular college majors based on the NCES and BLS data, it's actually number one is business. If I remember correctly, there are over 70,000 graduates just with a pure business major. Okay, so if your feeling is, I don't really know what to do. Oh, you students really don't know what to apply for college, and the business is actually one of the most popular choice. Okay, and the number two is healthcare. Number three is social science and history. Number four is biological, biomedical sciences. Number five, psychology, engineering. Number seven, computer and information sciences. But I do know the graduate medium income for computer and information sciences is number one. And visual and performing arts and education and communication and journalism. Okay, so if you are thinking about college, future college application, business is one of the popular ones. Okay, and let me go over. So this is actually the traits that college wants. Okay, so you don't have to read everything, but let me tell you, almost all of them related to business. Okay, just pick up one, leadership, right? Your ECs and passion, commitment, strong writing presentation skills, interpersonal skills, and probably only the academic excellence is something you have to do, and honesty and integrity is related to the ethics, but almost everything is actually related to business. That's the trait that the college is actually looking for. Okay, and if I want to put a label on what kind of business can bring to a college, or a major essay question when you apply to college is actually what you can contribute. Why our school? Why this major? It's actually the business can bring you a lot of things. It can be, I don't have time to discuss all the details, but a lot of things you can do, and you can use the business as the focus to bring to the college. Okay, so I'm just going to stop here because it's already almost 20 minutes over my limit. And if you have any question, feel free to type in the chat box, or you can just open your mic and talk about it. Okay. And let me see what the questions we have here. I'll just leave my contact information here. Okay. All right. Oh, Conrad challenge. Oh, I missed. I probably should include that one. Um. Uh. Let me. There are just so many. Let me say there are just so many business competitions. Okay. If I want to divide, if I want to divide the business competition into three categories, I would say the first category is actually club-based. For example, DECA, FBLA, BPA. Okay. The second category is like investment stock oriented. Okay. And the third category is like a business plan oriented. Okay. The first one I mentioned is a club-based, so it covers almost all the prospective business. The second category, investment, it actually can be further divided into subcategories. What an investment computation is actually focus on a few, focus on your portfolio, fund manager. So it's more or less strategy. And some of the stock pitch is like talking about valuations. Some of the simple competitions is actually create, you have a virtual money, and the result is how much money you can make. The more money you make, you win, which is actually the one I feel that it's actually a lot of times played by chance. Okay. And the second, another category of that is actually they ask you to write a kind of a corporate analysis of particular stocks. And that's also related to strategy itself. And the third category, for example, Diamond Challenge, I think the Conrad is similar, right? I'm not really sure. I forgot. I should put in there. Because actually two of my students actually attend the Conrad and actually asked me for the information. But I always feel that depending what you want, really depending your interest, if you are interested, if you're, well, let's say the student perspective, if the students are interested in making money, and a lot of times it looks like the stock competition is actually their interest, the competition they should attend. They should attend. But let me warn you, like I just mentioned previously, if you want to understand finance, you have to understand the business operations, strategies, marketing part. If you don't understand the marketing operation strategy, you actually cannot be a good financial expert. Okay. So what I'm trying to say here is you will slowly actually get interest into the stocks, and then you will find that to do that, you need to understand the business. And naturally, actually the business plan part is actually will ring the bell. Okay. So I always visualize business education as a package. You have to attack it from different perspectives. Okay. And the major lesson I learned through the business education is really coming from that I now visualize a particular subject from a business perspective, other than just from technical or scientific perspective. Okay, and I think that is actually very, very important for the students, especially STEM-oriented students. Okay, all right. A WeChat group. Oh, sure. If you can just connect with me with the link with the WeChat ID, and I will bring you into. I will just invite you into the group. Okay. I think we have 3 groups, and one big, 2 small, and it's just expanding. Okay. Any other questions? I'm sorry, I don't have time to cover the college application part. This is actually kind of a very interesting part for me for this year, particularly this year, because because I have the personal experience now. Oh, another question. Okay, another question is actually about how business related to college application. That's the topic I want to cover. But let me put this way: I will have another college application webinar later on. Okay, probably after maybe sometime in April or May-ish. Okay. Well, if you need the recordings, just let me know. Okay, just connect with me, and I'll send you the recording links and put you into the group. Okay. Oh, yes, my daughter is a business direction. Well, unfortunately, no. Oh, maybe put the other way. Fortunately, no. Maybe part of the business, but definitely not the major direction. Yeah. So I guess I'll try to conclude here. Okay. And many of you, I will probably send out some class registrations, and I'm sorry I don't have time to cover the detailed classes, but I do hope this is a great opportunity for you. And actually, some of the audience here are actually my students as well. And I like to thank the students and also thank the parents here. Okay. Oh, you want the if you just want the list, you can do a quick screenshot of all the competitions if you want. Okay, let me go to that page. Yeah, just you can do a screenshot and do a search. All of them you can do that. Feel free. Okay, so hopefully I will have I answer most of the questions you may have, and that's all I want to cover for today. And yeah, sorry again. I'm sorry. I only mentioned the part 3, only a few slides to give you a taste. And there's actually a lot of things you can connect everything together. And I'm actually trying to put everything together. And I think this is a whole package. Okay. All right, let me stop the recording here.